Well, University of Sydney Vice-Chancellor Mark Scott copped a grilling in New South Wales Parliament estimates earlier today over his handling of the pro-Palestinian encampment that was allowed to exist on campus for 2 months. Despite Jewish students complaining they felt unsafe with such phrases as "from the river to the sea" being chanted daily as they tried to go to class, the professor defended the environment he had permitted, dismissing the phrases as technically not illegal.
Students have reported, quote, "I do not feel safe on campus and actively struggle to learn when faced with the reminder that people are openly allowed to call for my death in the next room." How does that help the psychosocial safety of students?
Well, I'd want to see the specific nature of that. I cannot find a jurisdiction in the country that has banned the use of those phrases.
I'm joined now by New South Wales Liberal MLC Susan Carter. Susan, thanks for joining me tonight. You were the one delivering most of the blows in estimates today, and I want to go through some of the specifics in a moment. But just generally, what did you make of Mark Scott's responses to your questions today?
Oh, James, it was very, very disappointing. The university talks about the importance of empathy, about free speech, but doesn't seem to have actually heard what the Jewish students and Jewish staff members have been saying about the effect of the encampment and about the effect of the protests on their feelings of personal safety.
Yeah, one of the first questions you asked was about the ongoing support that was given to staff and students, and Mark Scott rattled off all the things he had done in the wake of October 7. But do you think he answered that question about whether or not targeted and ongoing support was necessary to make sure Jewish students actually felt safe on campus? Did he answer that question adequately?
He never answered that question, and in fact he kept talking about communication and a lot of very high-level things. But it was interesting when I tried to drill down and say, OK, you talk about safety escorts. Does that mean that a student who felt unsafe would be able to have an escort to take them past the encampment, past the real locus of where they felt fear and anxiety? It appeared to be simply, well, we made sure everybody had the phone number of security. That's not actually anything that's targeted and positive and supportive for students who are feeling tremendous anxiety and often, frankly, fear.
Well, you mentioned those safety escorts that were provided for Jewish students, but no one from Sydney University could actually say today whether those security escorts were ever used or if indeed Jewish students knew they were available.
Absolutely, and frankly, I think it's a fairly token response to what was going on at the university. You had an encampment of students who were making it uncomfortable, if not impossible, for Jewish students to go in a whole area of their own campus to walk to their graduation, to walk to lectures. You had a situation where the Nanoscience Hub and lecture theatres in Carswell were being locked down because of safety concerns. And to suggest that when you're dealing with, frankly, what was a climate of violence, that an appropriate response is to say, well, we'll get somebody to walk you past the worst bits of it. It's hard to see that that is actually real targeted action that would support Jewish students to feel safe in their own place of learning.
Right, here's the part of the hearing that really annoyed me. I couldn't help but notice there was a lot of pushback from Labor MLC Stephen Lawrence, who seemed very concerned that your questions were provocative. Now, this whole topic is provocative, and speaking of provocative, Jewish students were expected to put up with provocation, but Mark Scott said at the estimates hearing, well, he's got to be protected from it.
Look, very interesting observation, James. And I think one of the most upsetting things about, well, two things. The safety of Jewish students and their feelings of anxiety and fear and not being safe is the most important thing. But the other thing really goes to the nature of what a university is. Universities should be places where we are encouraging students to respect each other, to disagree well, as the former Vice-Chancellor used to say, and to actually listen and engage with each other. Yet clearly there was no listening and engagement in our exchange today, and also there appears to have been no attempt by the university to actually take the heat out of the protests, for those in the encampment to listen to the concerns of the Jewish students, and also vice versa. University should be about dialogue, but this was about vitriol and hate and protest rather than about helping us move forward as a society.
Before I let you go, I want to ask one more question. What did you make of Mark Scott's response to questions about the presence of Hizbut Tahrir on campus? Have a listen.
I would say about Hizbut Tahrir, as it's a question perhaps for Parliament in some respects. If this was a declared terrorist organisation that was illegal, if the Parliament had declared Hizbut Tahrir an illegal organisation, then of course they would be banned from campus. They are not. There was no mechanism, in a sense, for us to stop them being on campus, as they are not a banned group.
So essentially he said, yes, there were radicals on campus, but not my problem.
Look, this was just buck passing. Let's reflect for a moment, James. Hizbut Tahrir are on record as saying that it's fine for a man to discipline a woman with violence. They say that the moral problem or the moral curse of the world is to be found in the Jewish people. Now, do we actually need a law to tell us that that philosophy and that those statements are unacceptable, and that if there are people on campus who are espousing those views, they should be unwelcome in a place of higher learning?
Just absolutely unbelievable. But thank you, Susan, for what you did today and for making those points. Job well done, and I appreciate you joining me tonight.